when you see it, it's the acoustics are beautiful. It's got
feels
maple
so
floors.
good.
It's all
Those floors, are they from the 1920s when that building was built?
That's original. Yep, those floors are original. So they've been refinished.
I remember I took my shoes off. I wanted to touch the floors. I mean, it reminds me of maybe an old gym, the floors like they would have in a gym. But these were different. Everything was glistening in the room.
Yeah.
It really felt exalted. I mean, like I was in an exalted space. So try and describe it of what that room looks like, because there are different large throne-like chairs. So what's this all about?
So a lot of the fraternal organizations are all based on what the Masons were. They were kind of the first or one of the first, and I think a lot of Moose, Elks, all those are kind of based on that. So there's 4 chairs, and we talked about earlier with charity, justice, brotherly love, and fidelity.
Hi, and welcome back. If you're within the sound of my voice, you are listening to or watching the Sterling Spin podcast. I'm so grateful that you've chosen to join us again, because my commitment is to bring you tools and tips for your well-being through a new spin on living, loving, and learning. The guests that come into the studio every week, it's another guest and someone who's interesting, not only has a story to tell, but has something for you to learn from them. I've already learned something from my guest, Allen Lenort. He is a member of the Elks Lodge here in Longmont. And since joining in 2002, I believe, Allen has held numerous leadership roles, including, ready for this one, Exalted Ruler. During the centennial year of 2006 to 2007, he held that esteemed position. And you definitely are going to find out what it means to be an exalted ruler. In September 23, under his leadership as Lodge Secretary, the Elks joined the Longmont Chamber of Commerce, and it has made a transformation from a hidden fraternal order into an openly welcoming community hub. So,
we're trying.
Wow. I really get that there's an opening here. And that's why I took advantage of the opportunity to bring you into the studio. Allen, thank you for showing up.
Well, thanks for having us or having me. And it's part of what our discussion the other day. We're really trying to let people know the why of why we're down there on 3rd and Kaufman, and show people all the good works we can do, and maybe get them interested to come on down and join the mission.
You started off a couple seconds ago, and you said, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a trained listener. So I'm getting the feeling that your identification of yourself is with the Elks Lodge. Like, I know it's not you and you're not it, but it seems like it's in your heart and soul, and you think of it as an us.
It really is. I said I joined in 2002, and it was my mom and my mother-in-law were members already. And my wife and I weren't able to have kids. And this has really turned into a passionate endeavor, a mission. And we feel like we're part of a family. Not to go too deep into the weeds, but there's kind of 2 titles I have. I'm an elk, of which it's part of the community. We're there to make our little communities better. But I'm also a Marine. And I think they tie together because, once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. And once you're an elk, I mean, it's a great mission, and it's a great thing to be a part of, and we've really enjoyed it.
3 times you've used the word mission.
Yeah.
All right. So not only are you a man on a mission, but the Elks have a mission. And then when an individual finds out or becomes an elk themselves, they may have a mission too. So let's start with that word. What's the mission of the Elks?
Well, it's a fraternal organization,
And it's fraternal. Does that mean it's like fraternities or men?
That's why, but not all. Well, yeah, I guess the women's side would be a sorority, but women were allowed to join the order in 1995. And without the ladies in our organization, we would have probably died by now, honestly.
Wow, thank you for saying that. 1995 wasn't too long ago.
No, 30 years ago now,
No,
yeah.
30 years ago was when women came into the Elks. When was it founded?
1868, February 16th.
Okay.
And it was definitely back in the day, it was a men's club, as many of them across the nation were, and a lot of them have started to change. I did the numbers earlier this year on the percentage of female members in our lodge alone, and 27% of our members are ladies.
Wow, that's wonderful. So the mission, starting in the 1860s, was what, and how has it changed and morphed, and what's the mission today?
Well, originally they were called the Jolly Corks, and it was basically a group of thespians that got together. During the week they would save larder, and then on Sundays was the day off. Well, the blue laws were very strict back then, so they would use Sundays to finally relax and enjoy themselves and have some brotherhood, I guess.
Oh, interesting.
And then not too long after they started to get together, one of their members passed away, leaving a wife and 2 orphan children. So that's when the group got together and said, we need to do something more with this. So that's when they said, we need to make it a benevolent and protective order. And that's when they got chartered, and New York #1 is the original lodge, and it's become so much more.
So benevolent meaning open for anyone and doing good for others.
Absolutely.
And protective, it's like a protection, like we're family, we're here, we're going to offer you protection, or we call it cover.
It's a way to be a part of something. You become a part of it. I guess like why I'm an elk and this other stuff, and that it's us. It's a group, and it's finding good things to do to make our communities better, and kind of that stuff.
So let's talk about the making communities better part of it, because it's not just about, okay, I go to the club, I can have dinner, I can go to the bar and meet friends, I could play games, we could get together on Sunday, we can have barbecues. There seems to me to be a whole component of the Elks that's about community, bringing people in, caring for others. What does that look like?
There's definitely a social aspect to the Elks with, like I said, come to the club room and having a cocktail with friends. But then there's the charity side. Tonight we're going to do our youth night where we're going to recognize our hoop shoot kids, which is one of the programs of the Elks. We're going to recognize our scholarship kids. Our American Essay kid will be there tonight. So it provides that, then that's just the youth activities part. There's also a veterans component to it. And it's just, I don't know, I like to say, like in Colorado, there's 55 lodges and over 22,000 members.
Wow, just in Colorado.
Just in Colorado. Nationally, we're probably going to go back over 800,000 again members and about 1,800 lodges. And when I was state president, you visit all the lodges in the state of Colorado, and you realize that every one of those lodges is something special for their community. Every one of them does a little something different. It's all kind of under the guise of elkdom, which is one of the phrases we like to use. But
do you wear hats and stuff like that? I think I may be talking about Freemasons or Rosicrucians.
We don't have hats.
We don't have hats.
We don't have hats or anything like that.
I had to ask.
Back in the day,
Jackie Gleason and the Honeymooners. He wore his hat.
Well, and the Flintstones was the whatever that was, and they wore the big. But we don't wear hats. Back in the day, they had a apron that they used to wear around, and it was part of the regalia and part of the rituals and all that stuff, but no more. I mean, in our lodge meetings, there are jewels that are all different. So the exalted ruler would have their jewel is gold, where all the other officers are silver. So that just shows that she is the one in charge of the lodge. She's the lodge president. So it's a little bit different. And
Glad to hear there's a she in there.
yes, our current exalted ruler is Karen Burrow, and she's a second generation elk. Her dad was in the Boulder Elks, and she's doing this to honor her father. So it's a big deal.
So what does it take to become an elk?
Well, there are three basic requirements. You have to be at least 21 years of age, an American citizen, and have a belief in God.
Oh.
So it's as simple. You don't have to be a veteran or anything like that.
American citizen, 21 years age, and you have to have a belief in God.
Yes.
Why? Why does somebody have to believe in God?
So the four principles of our order are charity, justice, brotherly love, and fidelity.
Hold on, let's say it again as fast. Charity.
Charity, justice, brotherly love, and fidelity.
Okay.
So now the chair of justice is governed on the book of law, which is the Bible. For our meetings, we will have an altar that sits in the middle of the lodge room, and on that altar are the Bible, the antlers of protection, which is the station of brotherly love, and the American flag, which is symbolized for charity.
The Bible is the justice, and those are the rules, and that's the law.
The book of law is how it's referred to.
So people take a little bit from here and there. Some people are like naturalists, and they believe God is in nature and in the trees, and other people believe that God is expressed in a multitude of different ways. Is somebody tested or queried or questioned, or do I just say, I have a belief in God?
Absolutely.
And it's my own belief. And if it's not written in the Bible, is that okay?
Absolutely. It's not Christian. It's not Jewish, Hindu. You just are asked, and it's part of the initiation ritual. And do you have a belief in God? We don't ask why. And one of the tenets of the obligation for every new member is you will not introduce anything of a political, sectarian, or personal prejudice into the order.
Great. I'm so glad we're on the same page.
Now,
but is that really a reality?
Well, I'll admit, sometimes in the club room, especially with the last couple of years here, there are discussions about politics. But when it gets a little elevated, it's like, let's not bring that up here. Well, let's go back to our mission, which is to be a better steward and to help our community.
Connecting, having social connection, reaching out to the community. How about mentorship? Because you talked about, the youth and helping them. Are you helping the youth to come along? What are your ways in which you're reaching the youth today?
I think our youth activities program, which is our basketball hoop shoot program, which the national finals was just finished last week. We have a soccer shoot program. We have an Americanism or an essay contest. For instance, in our community in Longmont here, this year we got a grant from the Elks National Foundation where we provided literacy or books for two local programs, the Crossroads School as well as the Wild Plum here in Longmont.
Oh, yeah.
And that
I'm
allowed
familiar
them
with
to,
the Wild Plum.
Yep, they were allowed to go purchase a lot of books that they hadn't been able to have for a while, and that's just a grant that comes from the National Foundation, and that's another way that we can help make our communities better.
Well, I'm feeling as if it must be a really good feeling to be connected to and part of a larger organization in which you feel like people have your back. You're like, you're not alone. I mean, and you could be married and have a spouse or have a partner, but there's something else, and it's like it's got you, Yeah. How do you describe that? I mean, I guess as a Marine, you had that, and maybe you're carrying that with you. How would you translate your Marine experience of being there, supporting each other, to what is happening inside your relationship with the Elks?
It's a team effort. And I think we're seeing a lot of the newer members come into the organizations. With our lodge, we're getting a lot more younger members with families and kids. And it's a safe place for them to come into. We have a kids' playroom that some of the younger members can come in. But also, a lot of those kids also will help us with our Friday night dinner. So they like to help, and they get a way to keep back. And with the scholarship program, one of the components for our scholarship is community support and
Involvement and support.
and they can keep track of those hours, and it helps them with their scholarships once they
How
get,
has it
to that level.
changed? How has it changed over the years? I'm thinking we're so technologically oriented right now. We're like doing the AI thing. I mean, we're stepping into like a whole new world. And honestly, when I think of the Elks, I think of old world, like really from back then. What's bridging that's bringing it into today, or is there?
Well, there is, and I think it has changed. My father was a moose back in the day, and back in the day,
Wait,
him and
the Moose Lodge?
the Moose Lodge here in Longmont, actually.
Okay.
And back in the day, him and his friends would go and have a cocktail or a drink after work before they came home.
Right.
That's not kind of the way our world works anymore. And I think one of the things that's really helped the Elks become more prevalent and actually helped our membership grow is through the Elks National Foundation, which provides grants to lodges. For instance, we gave $9,000 last year to community projects, and that really helps our lodges, whether it's us or any of the 1,800 lodges across the nation, let their communities know that, hey, we're here.
We're here for
we,
you.
we can't do everything,
right.
But hey, we can do a little bit.
So it's less the fraternal order of the guys getting together and, having spirits, and more like the spirited nature of the Elks reaching into the community and being a bridge to bring the youth to come in and be involved and have a place and a way in which to give back and to learn about that. It's like a modeling organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll get to that more in a minute. Just want to thank you for staying with us. We're going to look a little bit at some of the unusual experiences that I had when I was inside the Elks Lodge. And I must say, it's something that may have something to do with the previous exalted rulers. This is Liz Sterling, and you are listening to the Sterling Spin. Here you are on YouTube, so please subscribe. And I'd like you to hit the notification bell, because that will get you notified every time we have a new program that drops every Sunday. Every Sunday, we have a new Sterling Spin podcast. And also, you may like an episode and would like to be a sponsor, and you can inquire by contacting me directly at sterlingspin@gmail.com. Nice and easy, sterlingspin@gmail.com. And you may have an amazing story, and I would like to hear about it. So please send me a little note. Allen Lenort is with us today from the Elks. I came into the Elks Lodge, and you gave me and a group of other people a tour. Mm-hmm. And it was incredible being in this old building. So tell us a little bit about this old building, and then we could talk about some of the energies in the room where the exalted rulers and each one of these chairs are. And I'd like you to describe, when we go upstairs, what that room is like.
Our lodge property, and this year in late October, it will be 100 years old.
The building is 100
our original
years.
lodge home will be 100 years old. But kind of more of the backstory on that. So our lodge was instituted on December 27th, 1906. One of our initial charter members was V.S. Allen, and that was his family's homestead, and that's where he was born. So in 1923, they sold the building to the Elks, and they built the lodge home and finished it in 1925.
That was pretty quick, 2 years
for
this. How many square feet? Must be.
The original lodge home is 14,000 square foot, and then the ballroom was added on in 1962, and it's still the biggest single dance floor in Longmont, Colorado.
Well, that's good to know.
The Boulder Elks actually have the biggest dance floor in Boulder County, but that we don't want to plug them too much. But yeah,
we like Boulder's nice.
Boulder's,
I love those
people.
flat irons.
Yeah, but yeah, it's the history of the building, and it really was. It's interesting. We've seen some of the articles from that day, because that was a significant addition to Longmont at the time. And it really did become a cornerstone of the community, especially downtown community, over the years. I mean, the Longmont Elks have donated $40,000 to the new hospital, was what it was called in 1959, out on Mountain View, which is now the middle of town.
Right.
We donated a lot of money to the memorial building, City of Longmont's memorial building when that was built up. I can't remember the year, but yeah, we've really over the years just become a part of the community and helped develop it.
You talk about a cornerstone.
Yeah.
This 14,000 square foot, what was a home, which is now home to the Elks, it sits on a corner. It's a big corner that it takes up. So it is a cornerstone. The building's over 100 years old.
It will be this year. So,
And, it's all right. And it has a lot of history.
right.
And that's where I'm like moving us up the stairs. There's gorgeous windows and stairs, but when you get upstairs, what is that room called? Is that the ballroom?
That is the upstairs of the original building is called the lodge room.
The lodge room.
Yep. Again, if anyone wants to visit our lodge, come knock on the door. We'll give you a tour. We're not a secret society. But I think that's part of the moniker from the days is, it was like, oh, you have to, do something in blood or something to be. No, it's not. And we're not a secret society. And we're trying to be more open. So if people are interested, we always let them in.
Right. Well, this is what it was. It was a hidden fraternal order. And the Rosicrucians were, and the Freemasons, these were kind of hidden and protected in what their rules and orders and what they did inside. I mean, even Kabbalah, which is something that I've studied, was hidden in that you couldn't be exposed to it until you were 35 years or older. Yeah. And you had to have certain preparations to be able to receive it. But now it's different. You knock on the door and you walk in and you're like, I like how this feels and I want to be part of it.
Well, and that's where I think the Elks have really changed that thought process. We want to be more open and let people know we're not a secret society.
Right.
And as you saw when you go up into the lodge room, it's a beautiful room, and we've had the Boy Scouts have done their gold and blue ceremonies up there, and so we will rent it out for an event. But when you see it, it's the acoustics are beautiful. It
feels
maple floors. Good. It's all
those floors are they from the 1920s when that building was
That's original. Yep, those floors are original. So
I
they've been
remember I
refinished.
took my shoes off. I wanted to touch the floors. I mean, it reminds me of maybe an old gym, the floors like they would have in a gym, but these were different. Everything was glistening in the room. Yeah. It really felt exalted. I mean, like I was in an exalted space. So try and describe it of what that room looks like, because there are different large throne-like chairs. So what's this all about?
So a lot of the fraternal organizations are all based on what the Masons were, they were kind of the first or one of the first. And I think a lot of Moose, Elks, all those are kind of based on that. So there's 4 chairs, and we talked about earlier with charity, justice, brotherly love, and fidelity. Fidelity is the chair of the exalted ruler or the lodge president.
Oh, it's fidelity to the order.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you that question. I was like, do we want to go there? I mean, this is, like a PG rated show.
Yeah. And
today,
and when you do your obligation, you're sworn to protect the order.
Right.
Not secretly or anything, but you're sticking up for it. And when the order does something wrong, they admit it. I think back in the day, maybe they don't, but now they do.
How does the order do something wrong?
I was thinking that when I said that. I'm not sure they've done anything significantly wrong. Maybe back in the day in '95 when we didn't allow ladies in.
And somebody snuck a lady in, or a lady snuck in? Or?
Well, no, back in the day.
Okay, I like using that language because it's definitely not today.
They used to have, special nights of like a stag night or something like that when the boys would get together and play their cards and maybe some other things, but that doesn't happen anymore.
This doesn't sound like it's a big to-do to have to be forgiven for. I mean, not of it really. But the fact that you said it, I think we call that accountability today.
Absolutely.
And somebody's going to be able to be responsible for the choices that they make. And it seems to me that the Elks imbibe making the best choices that you can as an individual and for each other.
Absolutely. And going back to the 4 chairs, so during the initiation ritual, every member that's ever been a member goes through an initiation, and each one of the 4 stations, as well as the chaplain and the esquire. The esquire is the aide to the exalted ruler. they each have a story to tell. So the exalted ruler during their charge will tell you the story of fidelity and what it means. When you go to the chair of the leading knight, he will tell you the story of charity. It's a beautiful part that explains why charity is so important. Justice provides some background on the book of law and why justice and law. And then you have brotherly love, which is one of the very tenets of our order, tells you what brotherly love means to be an elk. And
When do you
it's very
think that
impressive.
name brotherly love is going to change to humanly love?
It's, it has evolved. There are, like I said, some rituals in the order, and some of the vernacular, the verbiage in that has started to change over the years. I tend to, there's a part of to our absent members where I kind of lean towards to our absent brothers and sisters. Because once you're in the fraternity, you're more, these are my brothers and these are my sisters.
Right, right. And since women are allowed in, it's been 30 years. I think it's time maybe for a change. Maybe I'll come on up and I'll talk to you guys about it. Okay, let's talk about behind the walls and upstairs. Whoa, I must say the energy was like palpable. I felt there were more of a presence than just the people who were in the room. And I said to you, I have this like spirited feeling in here. Like, are there possibly like the energies of previous exalted rulers? And you were like, well, as a matter of fact.
It is part of our, especially in our building, in our lodge, it is really part of our history. We've had a couple of different mediums or spirit people come in and do tours. And one of the stories, the first group that came in, they did a tour. She went to interview because it was like, okay, what do you want to do? We don't want to, have someone coming in here and doing, seances or exorcisms or things like that. And she goes, well, and she was on the level. And she goes, usually when I come into a facility, I have to call the spirits out. She goes, as I come into the lounge, the club room, we're on the main floor there, she goes, they're all over this place.
Yeah, they're all over that place.
And as they went up into the lodge room, I mean, there's an area where over by where we went up the stairs to the stage, she says, I can sense someone sitting right here in this chair. And it is very interesting because she said a name. And when you look at our tablets of love and memory are right above there, every member that's passed is on our tablets of love and memory. And I can't remember the last name. It was something very simple. It was Johnson or something like that. There is a member's name right above that chair that she was talking about. And we did a little research. And unfortunately, the gentleman, he was our leading knight at the time. And he had actually been nominated to be exalted ruler, and there was an accident at the lodge where he fell down the stairs and eventually died.
Wow, so he's still hanging out.
So that's one of the stories.
Somebody's got to tell him to go home, follow the light, mister.
I don't know how to do all that. But yeah, there's a lot of instances. I've had an experience down in our part of the original footprint of the building. It was late at night. We were cleaning up after an event or a dinner or something, and I'd gone down into the kitchen. It's a long galley-style kitchen. And I'd gone through the room to take something over to the dishwasher, and I looked down towards the north, and I saw something, and it was there for a second, and I just went white and just felt the chills and everything else. And and it was one of those experiences where it's like, what was that? And I've read up on it a little bit. When your body experiences something like that, it's a shock. Right. And that's why I'm sure I got the chills and everything. But yeah, there are other members that.
So it's like some part of you had that experience and you're like, wow, I know this is like not a normal kind of event. It was extraordinary and
it was.
Paranormal. They said there was a paranormal. Is that the first time that happened? Anything like that ever happened?
That's the first time I've ever experienced anything like that.
Yeah.
And there are other members that won't go up in when you talk. We had given the tour, and there's a stage that they used to give plays or have bands on the original lodge building. One of our older members, he will not go up there, and he's a big tough guy, and he's like,
well, I didn't know this.
And you said you couldn't go up there.
The group was invited to go up, and there were these stairs, and I turned around and I started going toward the stairs, and I heard, "You're not going up, young lady." And I was like, okay, I heard that. I mean, it was like audible. And I was like, wow, I wonder what that's all about. I guess it's not someplace that I'm supposed to be. So I let it go, Alan. I'm
Well,
like, let it go.
yeah.
And you went up with the group and I split.
Yeah, and it was interesting because one of the gentlemen kind of went into the closet and he goes like, "Can you close the door for a minute? I just want to feel what this feels like." I was
Wow.
like, "Okay," and we did, and he sat in there for like 10 or 15 seconds. He's like, "You okay?" And I, yeah, no, I'm good. And he's like, "What was he?" He goes, "Well, I just felt really at peace."
Wow.
So I was like, "Okay, that's cool."
Well, that's exactly how I felt when we began our conversation. I felt really at peace. And it seems to me that you're very much aligned with whatever it is. And this is really the question. What is it that you've gained? You, not you as an elk, but you as a Marine or you as a member of society, you here, an American, you that lives here in Colorado. What have you gained from your own life experience?
With the Elks or
Just like, a summary of what life has gifted you.
it's all part of where you're at on the path. And with, I was in a bad spot. I joined the Marine and it changed my life. I got married with my lovely wife, Kim, and that changed my life. I joined the Elks and she did too. And it changed my life. And I think all for the better. And I think it just has helped me appreciate, especially with the Elks, just how much people care about their communities and want to do something better and really for the good. You see, if you watch too much of the media stuff these days, you think our world is doomed. And one of the things I always like to do, the scholarship program is one of my favorite programs in the Elks. And you read those. This year we had 31 scholarship applications. And you see these stories by these kids, and they're good.
Wow.
There's really some good kids out there. I made the call the other day. We offered a $1,000 scholarship to this gal out of Lyons, and she's going to go to UNC for nursing, and she was so grateful. And it's nice to know that you can help somebody, change somebody's life a little bit.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what contributes to your smile. It's like, I remember somebody once said, if you really want to feel good, feel like you have a smile from within, like in your heart, or even if it's in your belly, like carry your smile from there, and from the inside it'll come out. And that's what I feel like you have a great smile, that it's not like it's just a put on a happy face. It's a smile that's a smile of what I'll call fulfillment.
Yeah.
Someone who's truly fulfilled. That you're right. There's roads in life. It takes you one way, it takes you another. The Marines really gave you something that you're carrying along throughout the rest of your life. What would you say that gave you?
It gave me direction. My wife, Kim, we knew each other for like 10 years before I joined the Marine Corps, and she wouldn't have nothing to do with me.
Before.
Yeah. When I came out, and it was like, yeah, I was changed. And I think it really did, change my course and really focused me.
Yeah.
And I think that's, going back to the Elks part of it too, that has also been another part of a journey that really is gave me focus and a mission for good.
Clearly a man on a mission who likes having a mission, and maybe somebody who's watching today is going to be inspired to become part of a group, an organization, and maybe it'll be the Elks, maybe it'll be something else. What does it take? I understand you have to be 21, an American, believe in God, and then with all of the support that you're offering to kids and scholarships and donations, are there large fees involved? Because I'm like, where are you getting all your money?
Well, no, and we're self-sustaining. We don't get any support really. I mean, financial support from the Grand Lodge or the national organization. So in our lodge and in every lodge, there's an initiation fee. For our lodge, it's $40. And then there's a yearly dues, which is for our lodge at this point is $127.
That's pretty reasonable.
For the year. Now there's other lodges. For instance, there's a lodge in Honolulu, which is I think they're one of the largest lodges in the nation. Their dues and their initiation fees are considerably higher, but they're right up from Waikiki and Diamond Head, so they have a lot more amenities. But every lodge has something, a little bit different deal, and
We've got our beautiful view.
we do, and our little building on the corner of Third and little building. It's a big building, but it's a sense of community. It's a sense of belonging, and that's where I think we're getting so many newer members, because I think the 40-somethings, 50-somethings, or the people that are recently retired are looking for something. We talked about what's changed our order. 40 years ago, the guys went to the bar or the clubs to have a drink. Now people are wanting to give something back to their community, whether it's an hour a month, or they're down there 2 or 3 times a day working on or a week working on a program. I think our society really is starting to change, and they want to give something back and do some good.
Yeah. Well, like you did today, you gave us a lot of information, Allen Lenort. Thank you so much, from the Elks Lodge, and a former exalted ruler who happens to carry a smile, I would say, from the inside out. Definitely a man on a mission, and someone who makes you know that it feels good to do good. I am thanking you so much for joining us. Thank you. It's been a great program. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us, staying with us. Subscribe right here to the Sterling Spin, and hit that little bell. That's the notification button. It's going to let you know every time we drop a new program. That's every Sunday, something new for you to listen to and to learn. I'm so grateful. And until the next time you're within the sound of my voice, I'm Liz Sterling, thanking you so much for being with us here in the studio. Bye.